So the topic of the day is change and identity. I think this topic actually came up with my business. There's someone on our team that is having a problem with identity. And so I'm making this video in hopes that if anyone is going through something similar, that this can kind of shed some light on that topic or that idea. So it's not just that person on our team that's actually going through this kind of, what did I say, crisis? I want to say it's a crisis, but going through this change, because I've gone through this change as well. That feeling of, that's not me, that's not who I am, and those are the things that this version of Kevin doesn't do. This is not something I do. This is not something that and those are all just beliefs. Those are all just stories that we tell ourselves in order to keep us comfortable in the positions that we're at. And so in order for us to understand this, we have to go through a series of changes, right? In order to get to where we've never been before, we have to do things that we haven't done. And so something that is really fucking good to lean on is the idea that our labels are the things that both serve us but also hold us back. See, oftentimes what ends up happening is that we embody a label and we carry that label on until it no longer serves us. We keep carrying that label until it no longer serves us. And so what ends up happening is we start taking in the cons and we're refusing to change. We're refusing to be fluid and not being able to adapt, you know? It's not just ourselves that stop us, although it's a big part of it. It's also the things around us as well. You see, things like our environment, the things that we consume, the things that we see on a daily basis, those are the different things that either help us change to what we need to be to serve us in that moment or to keep us there. And let me give you an example. Right now, the identity you are now serves you with the people around you because the people around you love and know who you are right now, the identity that you are right now. And so what ends up happening is when you undergo change and you embody another label to change your identity, you kind of get that feedback from people saying exactly what I said to what you say to yourself. The you've changed, you're different, that's not who you are. And those things, sometimes it's unintentional, but sometimes they'll hurt us. And so what goes on in our minds is, oh man, I don't think that this is the right identity that I should be going towards, because it is giving me negative feedback from the people around me, and I'm also giving myself that negative feedback. With that, you're kind of entering a false feedback loop, because changing those identities, for example, you change your identity to a selling identity. Being someone who goes into sales or trying to sell something, sometimes you need to ask hard questions, because you need to dig deep to see if this thing can help someone or not. Andy Elliott actually talks about this, where the Andy that is the sales Andy and the Andy with his wife are two completely different people, and his wife tells him that as well. And so sometimes you need to embody the different identities in order to serve you in that moment. So I'm gonna give you five key ideas that will help you in changing this identity, and that will help you be fluid like water. You have to adapt to the shapes, you know? So key lesson number 1. I've said it before, but in order to get something you've never had, you gotta do things you've never done. In short, it's adaptability. And in even shorter, it's learning. You know, sometimes in order for us to find out that the stove is hot is for us to go and touch it. And to be real, some of us have to go and touch it more than once in order to find out that there are negative repercussions to touching a hot stove. And oftentimes it's those lessons that take the longest. The lessons that take the longest are the lessons that we need to learn. So I guess that is key lesson number one, is you need to find out the things that you don't want in order to find out what it is that you do want. That's why they say even movement, even in the wrong direction, or action steps, even in the wrong direction, is better than staying in the same place. Because if you move in the wrong direction using action steps, you know that's not the direction you need to go to, and you need to pivot yourself. And in so doing, you know that at least you have to be directionally correct in what it is that you want. So you move in a direction that's wrong, you have to realize that. You'll eventually realize that, and then you have to pivot yourself to doing in the direction, at least that being directionally correct. You don't have to be precise, but at least being directionally correct is going to help you move towards where it is that you want. Okay, key lesson number 2 is to change your physical. Tony Robbins, personally, I've been undergoing a whole lot of personal development because I personally want to change as a person and develop to be better. Key lesson number 2. Look at this little bug. Look at this little baby. You want to be a part of the video? I'll do a video with you, okay? So key lesson number 2 is for you to change your physical. And I've personally been undergoing a whole lot of personal development because I want to change. I want to develop the skills necessary for me to go after the things that I want to have in life. And so changing your physical is the easiest thing to change that is under your control. See, there's a thing in philosophy where you can only change the things that you can only change and have control over yourself. You have no control over others. And so the easiest thing to change about yourself that you have the power to change with your own 2 hands and your brain is your physical. And Tony Robbins talks about this as well. If you change your physiology, you change the chemistry that goes on in your mind. And this is all scientifically proven as well. So because of that, if you undergo some form of physical changes, even going for walks, go for 15-minute, 45-minute walks. Before I got my dog, I was going on 45-minute walks and every day, at least to, clear out the mind, to give myself a break, to at least maintain focus on different types of work that I have to go and do. So what ends up happening is when you change your physical, the chemistry in your mind changes as well. And you become more open to, your mind becomes more open to different ideas and things that can help you change perspective on a bunch of things. And that actually leads me to key number 3. And that is to change your mental. You see, as soon as you're able to change your physical and the chemistry in your mind, you are more susceptible to changing the way you think about things. And the easiest way to change how you think about things that is in your control is by getting yourself around books, getting yourself around audiobooks, and even getting yourself on YouTube and listening to people that are in the positions that you are in. Because you're gonna end up listening to people that in the positions that you want to at least be in. You might not want to be exactly where they are, but at least it is directionally correct, like I was talking about earlier. And one of those key things that I've actually learned about doing this is, I'm not gonna take any credit for it, but it's from the Hormozis, and they talk about it like steps on a ladder. You need the left, right, and then the stick in the middle in order to continue to climb, right? You need to be able to have the capability to do the task and know how to do the task in order to accomplish it. That's the skills. You need to be able to stick to it long enough and continue to work on it, even if you're not seeing the results. And that is the character traits. And lastly is you need to have the full belief in yourself to continue going through this, even if you're not doing it. But you need to have the belief in yourself as well in order to get to that thing. And then you climb the ladder by stacking those three over and over and over again with each action and task that you're gonna do. That actually leads me into key lesson number 4. Key lesson number 4 is to change your environment. You see, you can change your physical, you can change your mental, but sometimes you're gonna have to willpower your way through it, especially depending on your environment. The next easiest thing to do, I think the easiest thing to do above changing your physical, even changing your mental, is for you to change your environment. And I talked about books earlier and also listening to people on this platform that are in the positions that you want to be in. The easiest thing to change is your environment. Books will help you move directionally correct. Listening to people in the positions that you want to be in will move you in a direction that is correct, that is at least where you want to go. But let me give you an example. Let's compare working out at home compared to working out at the gym. It's not to say that you're not going to work out at home when you say that you're going to work out at home, because you probably can, you probably should, if that's all you got. However, there are so many distractions at home that help you not accomplish that task of working out at home, like the different things that have to be cleaned in your house, the things that have to get tidied up, the things that are there to distract you, like a computer, TV, hanging out with family members, right? Compared to if you were to get yourself to a gym, everyone around you is working out. The only things in front of you are the equipment that you need to use in order to, get fit, start working out, into changing your physical. You see, an environment plays a big role in changing your physical, changing your mindset. It's the easiest thing a person can change that they can do. Personally, for me, what I've done is I've done the books, I've done the listening to podcasts and audiobooks of the people in positions that I want to be in. Also, number one key thing is, if you can find a mentor, find yourself a mentor, because that mentor can get you in rooms and places that literally change your environment towards being around the people that have the traits that you want to have in your life, like the character traits, the skills, the belief. They have those things that you don't have, and even if you don't have those things for yourself, they can lend you theirs. And that's kind of, the hack is kind of mentorship. If you can get a mentor, I highly recommend that you can get yourself a mentor. Now that leads me to the last and final lesson, number 5. And that is to cultivate habit change. You gotta cultivate, in order to cultivate change, you gotta cultivate your habits. I have a few books that actually help me cultivate both from the idea of what habits can do for me, the power of habit, how much of a habit change that you need to do, because people think that you need to have drastic changes in order to cultivate these kind of skills. And lastly, down to the very minuscule, is the how to cultivate habit change. So the first book is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and it teaches all kinds of things about how the power of habit can change one's life. Personally for me, one concept that I took from his book that I use on a daily basis is the keystone habit. A keystone habit is essentially a habit that sets off a chain of habits following after. For example, people have nightly routines, and those nightly routines usually include brushing your teeth, washing your face, skincare, all of those things. And so what sets off the keystone habit for me is brushing my teeth. When I brush my teeth, it sets off the chain of events of the washing the face, the skincare routine, the moisturizing afterwards, all of that. And the keystone habit can help for you, especially if you're a lazy person like me and you have a whole bunch of tasks that you gotta do. See if you can put together all of those habits so that you can kill like 5 habits in one. Book number 2 is Atomic Habits. One of the key things that I took from Atomic Habits, this is by James Clear, that I took personally is how little of a change you actually need in order to improve. I think we've all heard if you get better at least 1% a day, like not even 5%. If you take just 1% a day and you improve upon that 1% every day daily, at the end of 365 days, you get 37 times better. That's 3,700%. And honestly, that kind of changed like the trajectory of the idea of discipline and continuing to stay on it, even if you feel like you're not making any progress. Sticking to it and just getting better, just 1% better every day will make such a huge drastic change in the long run. So it's not that you have to make one big sudden movement in order to change your life. You just need to make minuscule movements every day in order to get yourself better. Just to piggyback on the back of that book, The Slight Edge is another book that helps. It has different stories in there that kind of cultivates how little of an effort that you need to make every day. The purpose of The Slight Edge is not just a minuscule effort, but it's the effort every day. It's the discipline to do that every day that kind of piggybacks on all of it in order to cultivate massive change over the long run, because things don't happen overnight. It's not just one big thing, it's small things. So don't beat yourself up on, man, I'm not seeing any changes tomorrow or the next day. It's the same with your fitness. You're not gonna get a six-pack you're not just gonna get a six-pack in a day or a week. It's gonna take time, but it takes time over a long period of you continuing to do those things. And the last book, and this one is actually a way to practically envision how you can cultivate habits. That is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. So this is actually habit number 1, is being proactive. You have to learn that habits is nothing more than a response to a stimulus. And what ends up happening for us is we get a stimulus, and what ends up happening is it's automatic. We have a response to that stimulus that's automatic. For example, chain smokers, they get this feeling of stress or whatever it is. Something triggers them, which is a stimulus, and their automatic response is to go and smoke. And so we have to understand in that book, being proactive, at least for habit number 1, being proactive, is that in between both the stimulus and the response, there's in between the stimulus and the response is your power to choose. And you have that power. No one else has that power. If you take a second to really think about what that thing is triggering you to do and how you're feeling and what you want to do about it, you can stop it there. And what helps me is the idea of visualization, because a whole bunch of people talk about visualization in terms of people on my team and just entrepreneurs in general. They talk about visualization, just, oh man, you gotta be and envision the kind of life that you wanna have. What I found personally that works for me when it comes to the whole idea of visualization is in those moments that I get the stimulus and the response, my power to choose, what helps pivot me to help with that power to choose is the visualization. I take a second to even if it gets really bad, I have to close my eyes and I have to think about the position where I want to be in the future. And that vision that you have in the future will give you an internal feeling, because humans are emotional creatures. we have emotions, and because of these emotions, sometimes they're uncontrollable. We're gonna feel anger, we're gonna feel sadness, we're gonna feel joy. These are things that we have no control over. It's just things are stimulating, and then we have a response to that. Sometimes the feeling is that response. And so let me use the smoking as an example. You get a stimulus of stress, and the response is to go and smoke. But let's say that in between that you have kids, and these kids, for example, you don't want to have terrible stamina when you're older, in order to not be able to play and hang out with your kids and not have the physical capabilities to keep up with your children. You know what I mean? And so if you close your eyes, you envision yourself in that distant future of you being able to be fit in order to breathe well and not be a smoker. You envision yourself in that position, and then you take that feeling, the way that you feel in that moment, and you put yourself, and you give that power of choice to yourself. You take back the power, and then you choose a different response to that stimulus. And that's honestly what helps me. What ends up happening for me personally is, I'm sure that a whole lot of people in my generation suffer from anxiety. So where I suffer in anxiety, because I'm in sometimes I have to go and do sales. And so when it comes to selling, I get anxiety. I suffer through the whole identity thing, because Kevin, that's not you. You're not a salesman. And salesmen are sleazy. You pick up all these identities and stuff, and then all of these things just stop serving you. And so what ends up happening for me is I get anxiety from wanting to do these sales or having to do these sales. And what goes through my mind is where this is going to take me. The stimulus of sales gives me anxiety. The response to that is to avoidance, detachment, to not want to do those things. Man, I'm hoping that they cancel on me. Those are the negative thoughts that come through that you really don't want to have. And so right in between, I take the visualization, the dream car, the dream life, the dream destinations, the people that I want to be able to do all of these things with, you know, the future family, all of those things. I put myself in that position, and then I take the feeling of being in that position and I put it in, I embody it. I take it in, and that helps me pick the response that I ultimately choose, you know? And so that just leaves me to just the conclusion, to kind of wrap all of this up together, is even if you don't change your physical, you don't change your mental, you don't even change your environment, as long as you do the tasks required to get you in the positions of where you want to go, you're still gonna be able to achieve those things. And that's exactly why evil, morally bad people still get what they want, because they still do the tasks that are necessary, even if they don't do any of those changes. Well, that's it. This is the bottom line of the video. If you're willing to support the channel, there are affiliate links to the things that I talked about in this down below. Just to keep you in mind that if you use those links, it helps support the channel and just helps me push out more content just like this. At the end of the day, when you go out there, you choose to become who you want to be. You don't go out there and you start searching for who it is that you want to be, because we all inherently have the thing that we want to have in life, or at least inherently know what it is that we want to have in life. So it's the end of the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.